guys, I made one attempt already with this, but the sound wasn't working, so this is attempt number two. I'm not sure how well you can see. I'm just going to tilt that forward a little bit. So this is one of the Marvel's Mightiest Heroes graphic novel collection books. As you can see on the front cover, this is Nova, aka Sam Alexander. You might be wondering why I chose to go for this one, first live review. I guess it was because when I started reading it, I found the character to be very relatable. So, for instance, the fact that his dad would tell him stories and his dad was his hero. I mean, that's something that I can very much relate to with my own father. Also, the fact that he was going through bullying at school. Um, yeah, so he was a character that I found very easy to understand, very easy to kind of see as this average teenager. When you, as I was reading through the book, it was quite obvious that he wasn't a genius. He wasn't someone who was perfect. So I mean, through the book, there's danger of him being suspended or expelled. Not only not only does he have the problems in his personal life, but also because he's young and inexperienced, it's he ends up making quite a big mistake in like the second part of the comic book. Um, so yeah, and it ends up having potentially dire consequences. And yes, he does try to put things right because obviously he's a hero, and that's what heroes do. Um, but the fact that he made a mistake anyway, I think speaks to him as quite an interesting character. Now, I have to say, I was quite disappointed not to see much of Rocket and Gamora in this comic book. So they have a brief scene right at the beginning. I didn't even recognize Gamora because, well, honest, she didn't look like the Gamora I remembered, and that wasn't from Marvel's Mightiest Heroes. She just didn't look like what I've seen her in the other comic books. But Rocket, well, I love Rocket, so I was very, very disappointed that he was literally in it for one scene right at the beginning and then one scene while Sam is in the hospital. So, one of the other things I would have liked to see would be more of the Nova Corps. Now, in the second lot of comics, Sam finds himself being drawn to basically the grave sites of the other Nova Corps, which is quite disappointing, really, just to see how they died and not to learn anything about them. Again, there was just that brief scene at the beginning, which obviously indicated that there was only one Nova who was from Earth, and that was Sam's dad, and later on Sam himself. But very little detail about what alien races were involved in the Nova Corps. I mean, what was the whole history? How did they all come together? Was it was it fate? Were they chosen or anything like that? Obviously, I know that Sam is is the second one to have the name Nova, but still, I feel like, especially as a newcomer to the Nova superhero myself, I like I felt like it would have been good to see more of the history, more of the background. Did think the artwork is very very nice in it. There's a lot of detail to it. I'll see if I can open up the pages and you can have a little look yourself. It's not probably not very clear, um, but yeah, it's like it's got quite detailed. Almost looks computer generated rather than look at the old Avenger comics, and it's almost more cartoon like. Obviously, there's not quite the advances in technology as we have now with it. Um, it was quite nice to see Sam interacting with Beta Ray Bill. Now, obviously, I have a comic book about the character, but not very much information about him so far because I haven't I have yet to read the book, but it was quite nice to see him and to learn a little bit, tiny proportion of his history and see how he interacted with Sam. It's nice to see that although he did fight first and ask questions later, he did ask the questions, and there was no real permanent harm done except to Moffat. But obviously he was a bully, so he didn't really care so much about that. Because he didn't seem to really have any redeeming qualities. He was just a bad kid. Obviously, it would be nice to see a bit more depth, a bit more background to him. But obviously, Nova was very pivotal to the story, so we didn't really see much with the other characters. And go back to what I said about Nova, i.e. Sam being a normal teenager. Obviously, had his responsibilities. The fact that his mum becomes a single parent effectively, and he's got to do babysitting. He's got to help out. He's also got this responsibility to save the world as well. As I said earlier, he's not a genius. He's struggling like with his attendance at school, and it's noticeable. The principal knows that he's not there, that he's not turned up to class, just like he knows that Sam's dad has not been turning up, and that of course is quite difficult on Sam anyway because um, his dad hasn't been doing his responsibilities even when he has been around, so Sam has had to pick up the slack, not only being with a kid, not only being a teenager, and and having to do classwork and be sociable, except he doesn't really seem. There's only really one character apart from the bully who he interacts with at school, and that's Carrie, who I found quite an interesting character. She had there seemed to be some parallels between her and Jinan or Jinin, the character who Sam meets later on. I was a bit confused about Jinin, to be honest, because if she was a prisoner as is implied in the comic, why didn't she indicate? Why didn't she act like there was a problem? But she just seemed to be part of the crew, and it was completely confusing about where she'd come from, what her history was. I mean, she was a character I would have liked to see a whole lot more of, um, especially considering the fact that she has those actions at the end. I did get the impression that Sam's abilities really only come from his helmet. So although it's indicated in the information in the book that he has training with Rocket and Gamora, that doesn't seem like that training really translates outside of him wearing the helmet, outside of him becoming Nova. So it almost seems like he's just he's just an ordinary boy, which is a nice thing, but it would have been good to see. Like, I know the helmet does make him stronger, although that seems to be more mentally rather than physically. As you can probably tell if I can find the when he wears the helmet, he doesn't change in any way. He's still skinny. He's still just a kid. There's no extra muscle. There's nothing that makes him look different apart from just the helmet and the rest of the outfit that he wears as well. So yeah, so I quite liked the character of Sam. I found him easily relatable. He was an interesting he was an interesting superhero because unlike Peter Parker, who's in fact a genius and seemed quite able to hide his second life because he was only had the responsibility of his Aunt May. Sam, as I said earlier, obviously has his family, has his schoolwork, um, and I mean, what teenager would not like to blow off schoolwork? I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but most of them would be quite happy to blow off schoolwork to go and save the galaxy, save the world. So yeah, he doesn't really have one liners like a lot of the characters, especially Spider Man, have these one liners, these snappy retorts when it comes to interacting with the bad guys. I'm sure sure there are plenty of examples everyone watching you can think of, but no, there's nothing really about like there's nothing no real humor, to be honest. I didn't really find myself laughing at the jokes, but I did find myself engaging with the character, and I think that that was quite important for me as a reader to be able to do, to engage with Nova, to get to know him as a character, and it was quite yeah, it was quite important, quite good that that happened. So yeah, um, the front cover, I felt it's a very good image of the character. Yeah, he's no, I mean he looks his helmet looks a little bit like a shark. I couldn't help noticing. You can see the eyes and like the horn there. But it's a really good visual. You can't really see that he's a teenager on the front, but at the same time, it's good for the image of Nova, of Sam as Nova. So yeah, oh, that we can see it a bit clearer now. Yeah, so as I said, he's an interesting character, someone who I found that I would like to read more comic books. I'd like to know more about the history, and I'd like to see learn about the original character who held the title of Nova. But more than that, I want to know about Sam's dad and him in the Nova Corps. I'd like to know more about the individuals of the Nova Corps. I mean, more than just the graves that end up being built because they're all dead now, except for Sam, who's the last one. So yeah, I would very much like to see more of this journey that he goes on, and see if he can find his father, and see that he and his mum and his sister, how are they going to deal with all of this? So I would recommend giving Nova, giving Sam a chance, see what you think. And if you have any suggestions for the next Marvel's Mightiest Hero to for me to talk about, got most of the collection now. I can probably dig out the ones that I can't immediately put my hands on. And later on tonight, I hope to be um, doing a cook and review. I'll be seeing two films later on, and they'll be cooking some risotto. So perhaps we can have a chat about about the two films while I'm cooking the risotto, and talk you through the recipe, and we can just see what happens. Probably be about 11:30 tonight, UK time. I know it's late. I tend to eat quite late, so yes. Check him out and enjoy the rest of your day, people. Bye.